Hello on YouTube. Hello on Twitch. Welcome to another episode of my Lord of the Rings Online Let's Play series. This is Northstar. I hope you're well. Are taking care of each other and being kind to yourselves. For those new to my channel, welcome. Returning viewers, welcome back. For those new to my channel, you can find this, my other series, my YouTube page, which should be listed, linked to Twitch. And of course, if you're on YouTube already, well, go over to my channel page, and everything's organized from oldest to newest. You can check out my many series, more than 24, ranging from Civilization 4 to Mount and Blade Warband, Stellaris to Hearts of Iron 4, Plague Inc., Rifle Inc., Cell Singularity, you name it. There's a video of it. I mean, not anything, obviously, but a lot of stuff. I am disabled from COVID. I'm desperately trying to build my channel to the point where maybe I won't die homeless due to this disease. I am applying Social Security, and hopefully I can get it, but the government is controlled by billionaires and thus can't be trusted. It's funny, you get right-wingers always like, oh, the government can be trusted. It's not because the government's inherently bad. It's because the government is controlled by a handful of very rich people, i.e. the billionaire class, and they can't be trusted. But regardless, usually can't be trusted. Sometimes people from that kind of class occasionally become what's known as a class traitor. Franklin Delano Roosevelt was, well, not a billionaire, but from a multi-millionaire family, and he was a class traitor that helped ordinary Americans. He betrayed, the interests of the very rich, and instead did what was right for ordinary Americans, and at least that's one narrative about him, one story. In his own words, his proudest achievement was, quote, saving capitalism. So perhaps he really just did what was necessary to stop the system from suffering either a fascist or a socialist revolution. And the fascism is actually still capitalist, despite people trying to deny that. But it's not neoliberal capitalism, and it's not liberal democracy, but it is still capitalism. It still has the same relation of ownership of the means of production, usually. That is, it's still controlled by a handful of very rich people. In fact, the oligarchs who worked hand in hand with the Nazis, they were, just like the, Rockefellers in the U.S., they're the same sort of just elite families, like the Junkers family, for instance. Big corporations, like corrupt and stuff. Anyways, fascists tend to favor big business, but it's still capitalism. No matter how much people want to call it crony capitalism or whatever, it's still capitalism. But anyways, perhaps FDR believed he was saving the system by providing necessary accommodations, concessions to ordinary people so that they would buy into the system and support it. And, willingly go to war in World War II instead of thinking the system they served was vile and maybe not much better than the things they're fighting. It was much better than the things they're fighting, keep in mind, but people can get strange ideas. No question the U.S. is better than, fascists they were fighting. But making it very, very clear how much better it is by making the U.S. system that actually worked for everyone, which it had not done before, and there have been multiple attempts to reform it. Theodore Roosevelt's Fair Deal, for instance, as a precursor to Franklin Delano Roosevelt's New Deal. By the way, notice they're both Roosevelts. Still not such a democratic, way of doing things when it's this one family that, they really were from different branches of the same wealthy family that was 2 presidencies, and of course we've had 2 Bushes as well, and we had 2 Adams. John Quincy Adams and John Adams. They were also from kind of similar to FDR, Theodore Roosevelt, different branches of the same family.
Can I speak with you a moment?
Yeah, the U.S. has been very oligarchical in nature for a very long time. It's not a new problem. Just gotten worse. That's all. And it's become harder to hide. Trying to whip through all these. Be quick here. Let's get these chickens. Chicken eggs. So I can go and probably start the new character. After all, I did call this stream old care, new care. For a reason. I have a new follower, but I didn't just get noticed someone. Maybe there's a delay about it telling me. Twitch. Yeah, so folks on YouTube. I'm not gonna make him a YouTube by any means, but I'm trying to do Twitch because you don't need nearly as many people watching you on Twitch to make decent money as you do on YouTube. Still need quite a lot more than where I'm at, but it might be a little more possible to get where I can earn money and maybe even someday make it to maybe even someday make the point where I can get a self-employment visa, move to Norway and get out of the US. Since it's only gonna go more fascist. Someday. Maybe. Attack. There we go. Get with her hockey to make my herald attack. Boom. Alright. Get the heck out of Dodge. I was trying to get out of the US before, lacking coordination for a second. Yeah, I was trying to get out of the US before I got double long COVID. This disease set me back in those plans, unfortunately. People don't want to have someone migrate to their country who's disabled and can't work. Some countries sign on to the UN Convention for the Rights of the Disabled. They can't deny people that, but there still has to be like, okay, we're taking people from your country as political refugees, and then we'll still take you despite being disabled. But no one is taking refugees from the US right now. They should. I mean, Sweden took refugees, offered political asylum to some people seeking to avoid the draft during the Vietnam War. which is a lot less bad than, you know, now what's happening with, you know, fascism. But, you know, Sweden's government is a lot further to the right than it was back then. Because social democracy is not stable, it gets undermined by capitalism, which still exists under social democracy, because it's not socialism. There's people like, oh, if we do Medicare for all and then strengthen the welfare system and better education, that's socialism. Nope, that is not what socialism is. Socialism is one thing only. If it doesn't have this trait, it's not socialism. Worker control of the means of production. Now, there's Marxist-Leninists who have a very, what some might call, authoritarian style of achieving that. And then there's non-Leninist Marxists like myself, who think that, well, you know, the particular historical circumstances of having an absolute monarch may have required a revolution in the Soviet Union, though even that was only possible at that particular time and place because of World War I, weakening the Tsarist stranglehold on power. In that particular time and place, that may have been necessary, but generally, that's not going to work, number one, and number two, peaceful change is always preferable to violent change, and elections can work, which Marxist-Leninists laugh at democratic socialists, such as myself, for saying that. Now, it's not simply, they try and mischaracterize it as simply voting in socialism, as if there wasn't going to be, you know, conflict and struggle. It doesn't have to be violent, but there may have to be strikes when, you know, the billionaires try and paralyze the economy, do capital strikes. Of, you know, workers can respond by, well, boycotting those companies that are doing that, etc. There may be pushback, there may be strife, but it doesn't have to be violent. It's just protesters in the street. Well, probably police forces still beating protesters, because even when you get socialist federal government elected, the local police are often still full of right-wingers. It happened in Chile, for instance, which elected a socialist government. Their politics were split more than two ways. So the government received the largest share of votes, but it didn't receive a majority of the votes. They got a plurality, not a majority. Which unfortunately meant the other factions, when they realized that Salvador Allende was serious about socialism, the fascists and the neoliberals and centrists all banded together to cause problems for the elected socialist government to resist actually reforming the economy and stuff. And you actually got attempts to paralyze the economy, which CyberSign actually helped get around, because one of the things was I think it was the railroad moguls tried to paralyze the transportation network, paralyze industry by making it so goods couldn't get where they needed to go. And so CyberSign was essential, and some of the trucking companies too, was essential for working around the attempts to paralyze the transportation network. It was a form of economic planning that was more decentralized than what they did in, say, the Soviet Union. It was CyberSign had systems for any person, well, not any person, but like any supervisory level or higher. So, you know, someone who's got 3 people under him, you know, just a shift leader could go into a computer system, very early computer system, a text-based interface only, and enter numbers about, like, we're running short on this thing, or we need a larger shipment of this, and they were able to do a level of economic planning and coordination without having it as much under the control of the federal government, which is something that people complained about under the Soviet Union, is excessive central control. Marxists like to point at this and say, well, Chile failed! Chile suffered a coup due to the CIA. Yeah, it did. It did suffer a coup. It probably would have still suffered a coup if it had been Marxist-Leninist. In fact, it probably would have happened easier if it had been Marxist-Leninist. Because what the CIA did is they spread all this fear-mongering about Salvador Allende. Oh, he wants to turn the country into a communist dystopia. If they'd actually been communists instead of non-Leninist Marxists, it would have been easier to spread that fear. People were on the right were afraid of the socialists, afraid of what they would do to put their country, you know, ignoring the pluralism of politics that was also the socialist country. You see the same sort of thing actually in modern Venezuela, and then you have Trump managing to secure a Nobel Peace Prize for the right-wing opposition leader, even though this lady is someone who the majority of the population doesn't support and is an absolute comprador elite monster who will basically destroy all the welfare systems in Venezuela and sell off the oil companies for fire sale prices that were nationalized by the socialist government. Venezuela is not a socialist country. The only sector of the economy they managed to put under either state or worker control is the oil industry, and so they still have capitalists, and the capitalists still have a lot of influence in the government. So a nationalized company, in that case, it's more state capitalism then. But they were trying to work towards socialism. The U.S., of course, put the country under sanctions and has been feeding propaganda against the ruling government, the ruling coalition there for so long that that government spends most of its effort just trying to convince the people that they're working in their behalf and doesn't have much energy left to actually advance the cause of reforming the economy. So very, very little economic change in Venezuela. It's been kind of stuck with still a mostly capitalist mode of production because of the U.S. sanctions. I mean, it's a tiny country, just like Cuba is. People love to say, oh, well, this socialist country is doing poorly because of socialism. No, they're doing poorly because under sanctions and because you have to be a very large country like the Soviet Union was to even have a chance of surviving when you're cut off from the global economy by the West. And really, you know, you're not going to do as well when you're cut off from trade as you would being able to trade with the world. Socialism does not mean you don't trade with anyone else. Although there's nationalists who don't like trade and, you know, they don't accept that argument because they think trade is bad. Under a capitalist framework, it can be. It becomes a race to the bottom of sending factories to where the labor is cheapest and the environmental protections are weakest and causes, you know, unemployment in your own country. But under, say, a socialist government, you can very much have much of the economy under workers' cooperatives, and workers' cooperatives aren't going to close down the factory where all the workers who own the factory work in order to send the jobs overseas, because then what will those people be doing for a living? It doesn't happen, usually. I say usually because, cool. There we go. Scrap of an essence reclamation. How many scraps of those do I have now? 1. Got some virtue XP from that. Because the Mondragon Corporation, which is actually a network of workers' cooperatives that achieve some of the economies of scale that, right, Festive for Advanced. I guess I can take that. Pending quests in the Spirit of Yule. We try? No. So probably come on the next time I log on then. Time to go create the new character, I guess. Although, quickly
Hello
travel
there.
back to Westbury. Mondragon Corporation is a network of workers' cooperatives that achieves some economies of scale of mid-sized businesses, despite being a network of small workers' cooperatives. But that also enables them to actually do some offshoring, which small businesses can't easily offshore. Mid-sized businesses can, and so they've actually moved some of their manufacturing to Latin America, where they actually they keep the same prices for buying into the workers' cooperative, because the workers' cooperative you have to pay a certain amount of money to become a full voting member, which in Spain everyone can afford that, but at Latin American wages, because they're also paying lower wages there, most of the people can't, so they created a two-tier system, which is undermining the socialist nature of the Mondragon Corporation. So that's an argument against workers' cooperatives in favor of a centrally planned socialist system. Of course, the Soviet Union practiced economic protectionism, but they did that because they were worried about Western sabotage, not because they thought trade was bad. In fact, they would selectively trade with other socialist countries. They tried to minimize their exposure to the West, which was stupid, and China has proven that you can be socialist and still take advantage of the West. Of course, they've proven that with a mixed market economy. So, maybe it doesn't work for Soviet style. You watch my Crisis the Kremlin Let's Play series, in fact, your competitiveness is lower if you're pure central plan the mixed market. Competitiveness is not really a measure of anything except how easily you're able to compete with the lack of trade protections with the international markets. So basically, if you go mixed market economy, you can do it with China, but if you lower trade protections while still centrally planned, it can cause economic problems. How long do I have? Yeah, I think I have just long enough to log in, maybe briefly, to my alts here, and then I need to go and create a new character on the Sting server. I think I have to exit the game entirely, though, for that. Shoot. Well, that might require me to cut the Twitch stream and start it back up. Way to pause the upload to Twitch? I don't think so. Should find out. Google, help me. Can I pause upload to Twitch? Stream delay. That's not it. Shoot. I don't. I'm not sure. I don't have time to read complicated stuff and try and figure this out right now. Except the daily. Just wanted to see what this guy. He'll need to do 2 more of the Pestifories before the end of Yule. I guess I can do the snowballs real quick. Before that might even mission bring good cheer. I'm gonna actually go into a mission with this character. Actually, not right now. Don't worry.
Greetings, friend.
Boom. Perfect snowballs. Tradesman for some virtue point. Alright. Towards the empathy virtue. Empathy is important. Let's see. Discipline, charity, tolerance, of confidence and empathy. Different than what the dwarves are running. Does that count as a festival activity? Nope. No, it does not. But, should probably also do Master Scholar stuff soon. I don't think there are any scholar studies in Frostbuck, although it would be nice if there were. There was like a library here. Ay, 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 ay. Just time to swing by.
Greetings, friend.
There is a scholars area in Celandine that might actually be closer. Let's find out. I think it is. Visit the elves. This guy is like an elf friend, is the idea. That was part of why I gave him the name. He's supposed to be, I think it's even... I hadn't actually taught these stable masters before. Let's see. Titles.
How can I be of service?
Heritage of Gondor, yeah. That's the closest I could come, but he's supposed to be like a man who's been around elves a lot. An elf friend. There's obviously no actual origin for that, but... Task tokens of heroism? Does he have any tokens of heroism?
Would you do something for me?
Yeah, no. Not in hand. You can see the difficulty stuff. I run fearless, my characters normally. Alright, where is the scholars area? The hotkeys per character? They probably are. Nope. I need to find the... There's like a scholar's hall. Darn it, why isn't there a blow-up map of this area? The way there are many others. Like a lot of the areas have... When you enter Bree, you can see a enlarged map of the area. But in Celandine, nope. No, you have to be able to zoom way in on everything. It's incredibly frustrating. It's harder to get places too. Like,
Maid of Onan, might you spare a moment of your time?
Frog at the behest of Carnivore. This is a different branch of the epic storyline. Not what I'm looking for, though. That's right. Wine enthusiast. You know what we call those? Drunks. Why are they called wine enthusiasts just because they're elves? They have a nicer name for everything, I guess. Somewhere around here is a scholar's something, right? I've never loved the... Workbench, oven, forge. I don't see study. Stupid camera controls. That's the forge, right? I know I'm getting close. That's not actually a study, I don't think. No, it looks like it ought to be a study table. It's not. I know there is a study somewhere. This is the vault. Person.
What do you need?
Come time for this. Be running around trying to find where the library is, because... And why won't it show the names hovering half the time? Quirk of Kinships, that's right. I feel like it's close to here. Here we have the forge and other types of crafting stations. Might be there. And maybe coming to Celandine was a mistake. At least I remember what Bree is like. All the buildings don't look kind of the same. Grrr. Utterly ridiculous. Return to Bree. Got no patience left for this. Stupid devs need to add a blow-up map of Celandine, and it needs to be labeled the same way Bree is. At least as well. Ideally better. You know? City maps exist for a reason. Alright, there's a study just out in the open, but whatever. So people can find it, obviously. Yes, I gotta equip my scholar's glass. Get my armor tools. Continue training this guy as a scholar. Boom. Should also be able to actually go and do a artisan level token. Might have enough Dunedain script around to do it without, but maybe not.
How may I be of assistance?
What else? There's also this metal smithing, which is another master token. I'll grab one here. Special gifts too. Plenty of marks. Occasionally get them in hobby gifts. Righty then. This requires a superior study. Right. More importantly, the forging stuff. Now you can make crafting tools with metalsmithing, but there is the universal toolkit, so people don't use these tools that much anymore. And eventually you get like what armor that's got, I forget, it's like tracery slots or something. I think armor does that, right? Whatever. Alright. And a low level bracelet thing recipe. Sell that. It's all this. This is just junk.
What can I do for you?
Repair that stuff. Let's see. The only thing I went to want to sell here, nope. It's just a matter if I can sell something off the auction house.
How can I be of service?
Have any auctions currently? But I failed to sell some stuff before. sell a lot of stuff before. Cool.
Greetings.
Let's see if I can sell the suit of armor. This is level 32. What the heck is this person doing? It's being annoying. Dwarf iron armor. It's a little better than that stuff. At least. 12 might. Nice. More on level with this. Tough dwarf steel jacket. That's unusual. Find something not good. That's just loot. Okay, so I can't actually sell this stuff right now. There's too much competition. Should be able to sell the helm. All this stuff that's coming up there is garbage by comparison. Better even than that. Boom. Alright. Log this guy. Perfect. This is about time to cut the stream. Cut the stream and then time for the new character. I'll take a peek at this high elf off camera while I rest for a second and let the delay post. But viewers on YouTube, I wish you all the best. Take care of each other, be kind to yourselves, and may you always find a guiding star to lead you home. And Twitch, I'll be back in not too long. Adieu.